One philosophy that I've always had, the thing that determines your destiny is not a competitor, it's how you execute. And I think most companies probably focus too much on competitors and maybe even focus too much on ideas. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of what makes great companies great is I always think that you should start with the problem that you're trying to solve in the world and not start with deciding that you want to build a company, right? I mean, the best companies that get built are things that are trying to drive some kind of social change, even if it's just local in one place, more than starting out because you want to make a bunch of money or have a lot of people working for you or build some company in some way. So, I always think that this is kind of a perverse thing about Silicon Valley in a way, which is that, people decide often that they want to start a company before they even decide what they want to do. And that just feels really backwards to me. And, for anyone who's had the experience of actually building a company, you know that you go through some really hard things along the way. And I think part of what gets you through that is believing in what you're doing and knowing that what you're doing is really delivering a lot of value for people. And that's, I think, how the best companies end up getting made.
Our generation is going to have to deal with tens of millions of jobs replaced by automation like self-driving cars and trucks. But we have the potential to do so much more than that. Every generation has its defining works. More than 300,000 people worked to put that man on the moon, including that janitor. Millions of volunteers immunized children around the world against polio, and millions of more people built the Hoover Dam and other great projects. And now it's our generation's turn to do great things. Now I know, maybe you're thinking, I don't know how to build a dam. I don't know how to get 1 million people involved in anything. Well, let me tell you a secret. No one does when they begin. Ideas don't come out fully formed. They only become clear as you work on them. You just have to get started. If I had to know everything about connecting people before I got started, I never would have built Facebook. Movies and pop culture just get this all wrong. The idea of a single eureka moment is a dangerous lie. It makes us feel inadequate because we feel like we haven't had ours yet. And it prevents people with seeds of good ideas from ever getting started in the first place. Oh, and you know what else movies get wrong about innovation? No one writes math formulas on glass, okay? All right? That's not a thing, okay? It's really good to be idealistic, but be prepared to be misunderstood. Anyone working on a big vision is going to get called crazy, even if you end up right. Anyone taking on a complex problem is going to get blamed for not fully understanding it, even though it's impossible to know everything up front. Anyone taking initiative will always get criticized for moving too fast because there's always someone who wants to slow you down. In our society, we often don't take on big things because we're so afraid of making mistakes that we ignore all the things wrong today if we do nothing. The reality is, anything we do today is going to have some issues in the future. But that can't stop us from getting started. So what are we waiting for? It is time for our generation-defining great works.
One philosophy that I've always had is I actually think the thing that determines your destiny is not a competitor, it's how you execute. And I think most companies probably focus too much on competitors and maybe even focus too much on ideas. And I think at the end of the day, a lot of what makes great companies great is the ability to just relentlessly execute and efficiently execute and do that rigorously and just get better and better at it all the time. And that's one of the things that we've really focused on. So I don't know, maybe it's it's sort of like a very, like martial arts view of the world or something, that you It's like when you go into a competition, you're not fighting another person, you're fighting yourself, right? And you're just trying to be a better version of yourself and make the company better and able to better execute every day. But I always tell our company that whenever I've gotten asked that question, like, a lot of times over time, and it's always just, no, like, we don't control our competitors, but we do control what we do, and we can get better at it, and that's how we build better things.
I remember that night I launched Facebook from that little dorm in Kirkland House. I went to Noakes with my friend KX, and I remember telling him clearly that I was excited to help connect the Harvard community, but one day someone would connect the whole world. The thing is, it never even occurred to me that that someone might be us. We were just college kids. We didn't know anything about that. There were all these great big technology companies with all these resources, and I just assumed one of them would do it. But this idea was so clear to us that all people want to connect. So we just kept working on it, day after day after day. And I know that a lot of you are going to have your own stories just like this. A change in the world that seems so clear that you are sure someone else is going to do it. But they're not. You will. But it's not enough to have that purpose yourself. You also have to create a sense of purpose for others. And I found that out the hard way. You see, my hope was never to build a company. I wanted to have an impact. And as all these people started joining us, I just assumed that that's what they wanted to do too. So I never took the time to explain what it was that I hoped we'd build. A couple years in, some big companies wanted to buy us. I didn't want to sell. I wanted to see if we could connect more people. And we were building the first version of Newsfeed at the time, and I thought, if we could just launch this, it could change how we all learn about the world. Nearly everyone else wanted to sell. Without a sense of higher purpose, this was their startup dream come true, and it tore our company apart. After one particularly tense argument, one of my close advisors told me if I didn't agree to sell the company right now, I would regret that decision for the rest of my life. Relationships were so frayed that within a year or so, every single person on our management team was gone. That was my hardest time leading Facebook. I believed in what we were doing, but I felt alone. And worse, it was my fault. I wondered if I was just wrong, an imposter, a 22-year-old kid who had no idea how things actually worked. Now, years later, I understand that is how things work when there's no sense of higher purpose. So it's up to all of us to create it so we can all keep moving forward together.
Well, I think you learn what matters to you and what's important and kind of your place in the world through repeatedly hitting your head against different challenges. And I mean, I think that's the journey, right? I mean, that's the entrepreneurial journey. It's also, I think, part of the beauty of building things. And, but this is something that Jensen talks a lot about too, right? It's like, I feel like you know, when you go to start a company, everyone kind of writes down what they would like their values to be, but values are not what you write down on the wall. It's like your lived behaviors. And you only really learn what you care about when you have to make hard trade-offs and face challenges. So, yeah, you learn the most important things through facing challenges.
I actually think a lot of this, how do you get an organization of 100,000 people through something, is about managing your own psychology and about managing your team's psychology.
For sure.
One of the things that I've always found is you can pretty much, I think, get an organization through and a team through almost any challenge as long as you can maintain good cohesion. So, it's the external stuff that doesn't bother me that much. People can criticize us. I mean, I obviously, if they're people I respect, I care a lot about that and want to make sure we do better. But it doesn't like make me not sleep at night. Mm-hmm. When our stock price goes down, that doesn't make me not sleep at night. When there's a new competitor, that doesn't make me not sleep at night. If there's an issue on my team and people aren't, and there isn't good cohesion,
then I'm not sleeping well until I resolve that.
Yeah.
It goes back to the very first thing we were talking about with, fencing. It's intellectual and you're managing your energy. I think like in order to get through these things and build big long-term things, you kind of just need to, I think you need to take care of yourself and you need to take care of your core team. And then like that, and basically in doing so, you can, I think, lead a pretty large organization through some pretty difficult times to do some pretty awesome stuff. I think that it's intellectual, it's energy, and it's about kind of training yourself to be uncomfortable. Obviously, starting a company is not bad, right? I mean, I think that there's different schools of thought on how to do it. I think some people think, okay, I want to go start a company, so I'm going to like go dive into this idea. And I just think that that's a little bit dangerous because there's this issue, which is you have to be able to be nimble and pivot around until you can like figure out what works, right? Part of the reason why I didn't think Facebook was going to be the company early on was because when I was in school, I built like 12 different things, right? Were just things that I wanted to exist. And it was like, all right, this is fun. Okay, let's build another thing. It's like, okay, this one's fun. People are still using that. I'll like help upkeep this one. But I had like a bunch of other ideas for stuff I was going to build too. So I just like, I didn't like know how to think about what a company was going to be. And it was, so, I think there's something about maintaining flexibility that's helpful. Once you hire a bunch of people, it's a lot easier when you can just have meetings in your own head about what direction you want to go in. And it's like, and there's a lot less pride and like people dug in when you're just like, okay, I'm going to change direction. It's like, people haven't like invested their ego in like, no, we were going in this direction and like now I must be convinced. It's like, nah, so I do think that that's a thing where you want to like keep things lean and be able to do that. And that's one of the reasons why we tried to get the company back to being, whatever the leanest version of a large company is that we can be. But I do think that there's something to that where it's like, it's obviously it's not super fun not having the resources to do what you want to do, but I think it also is problematic to have more people working on something than you should have for the stage that it's at, because then the people who are working on it don't have the agency to actually like make the changes and do the things that they need to, which is less fun. And then you can't attract the best people to go work on those things because it's less fun. And so I do think you just have to dial it right.
I think Peter was the person who told me this really pithy quote that in a world that's changing so quickly, the biggest risk you can take is not taking any risk. And I really think that that's true, right? I mean, a lot of people I think that, whenever it comes to, whenever you get yourself into a position where you have to make some big shift in direction or do something, there are always people are going to point to the downside risks of that decision. And locally, they're maybe right? I mean, for any given decision that you're going to make, there's upside and downside. But in aggregate, if you are stagnant and you don't make those changes, then I think you're guaranteed to fail, right? And not catch up. So to some degree, I think it's really right that over time, the biggest risk that you can take is to not take any risks.
I always, wrap up the day with them. We have this routine that Max calls the good night things, which is basically every night we go through. I'm like, all right, what are the things that are most important in life? And we go through it. It's like, it's health, loving family and friends, and something you're excited about. And like, what did you do to help someone today? And we basically go through each of these things. And it's like, all right, so health. It's like, well, what did you do to like make yourself stronger or more fit today? And like, if you get hurt, right, it's like Max broke her leg skiing once. And it's like, okay, well, like, let's go through the parts of your body that like still work and that you're going to like be able to use while you're recovering. Then it's like, okay, loving family and friends. It's like, let's go through, something that you did today with a person who is meaningful to you. And then I think something you're excited about is, and this is like my philosophy on life. I'm just trying to like boil it down for them. I guess the adult version of this is, I think you have to have something that you're looking forward to for the future. I think that that's just a really important part of keeping people going with the weight of life. But for kids, it tends to be something that they're excited about tomorrow. More often than not, it's just like, all right, I'm excited to see mom in the morning, or like I get to eat Cheerios at breakfast. It's like, okay,
It's not super inspiring, but the right basic idea. And then every once in a while, it's something like, okay, like Max is like, I'm gonna get ski poles next week, and it's like, okay, that's like a big milestone, right? Or it's like, I'm gonna lose my first tooth, right? Or like, I can't wait until I can like do jujitsu again. And then the last one I think is probably the most important, which is like, I'm like, I think especially for our family, right, and especially for these girls who are obviously growing up in very wealthy family, it's like you're going to do something nice to help someone every day, right? And it's like we like, this is just like an important service orientation that I just want, our family to have. And we just all go around and like I tell them something nice that I tried to do to help someone, and they have to tell me something nice that they did to help someone. And it could just be like another kid at school, or it could be mom or cousin or something like that. But probably much to their chagrin, I don't let them go to sleep until they can tell me something that nice that they did to help someone that day. So that's probably like the best encapsulation of how I think about parenting and the values that I want to try to impart to them.
We should explore ideas like universal basic income to make sure that everyone has a cushion to try new ideas. We're all going to change jobs and roles many times, so we need affordable childcare to get to work and healthcare that's not tied to just one employer. And we're all going to make mistakes. So we need a society that's less focused on locking us up and stigmatizing us when we do. And as our technology keeps on evolving, we need a society that is more focused on providing continuous education through our lives. And yes, giving everyone the freedom to pursue purpose isn't going to be free. People like me should pay for it. And a lot of you are going to do really well, and you should too. That is why Priscilla and I started the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative and committed our wealth to promoting equal opportunity. These are the values of our whole generation. It was never a question of if we were going to do this. The only question was when. Millennials are already one of the most charitable generations in history. In just 1 year, more than 3 in 4 US millennials donated to charity, and more than 7 in 10 raised money for another one. But it's not just about giving money. You can also give time. And I promise you, if you just take an hour or two a week, that's all it takes to give someone a hand and help them reach their potential. Now, maybe you're thinking, that's a lot of time. I'm not sure if I have that much time. I used to think that. You know, when Priscilla graduated from Harvard, she became a teacher. And before she'd do education work with me, she told me that I needed to get my own experience teaching a class. At first, I complained. I'm kind of busy. I'm running this company. But she insisted. So I taught an after-school program at the local Boys and Girls Club on entrepreneurship. I taught those kids lessons on product development and marketing, and they taught me what it was like growing up feeling targeted for your race, and what it's like having a family member in prison. I shared stories of my time in school, and they shared their hope that one day they would get to go to college too. For 5 years, I've had dinner with those students every month. One of them even threw Priscilla and me our first baby shower. And next year, they're going to college. Every one of them, first generation in their families. We can all make time to give someone a hand. Let's give everyone the freedom to pursue purpose, not just because it's the right thing to do, but because when more people can turn their dreams into something great, we are all better for it.